Hey guys, and welcome back to Jeeping for Beginners. Once again, my name is Josh. Today, we have a special treat for you. We are going to go shopping. And what I mean by that is I'm going to help you figure out exactly what it is you need to look for when you're buying a used Jeep. So come on, let's do some lot hopping and see what we can find. Alright guys, so like I mentioned, today I'm going to help you shop for a used Jeep. We're not going to get into the differences between a Sport, a Sahara, or a Rubicon. Those is saved for a different video and a decision that you need to make. I simply want to point out what to look for when you're looking at a used Jeep and whether or not it's actually a good deal and worth the money. So we're not promoting any dealerships. We're not promoting a specific model. We're just going to take a walk, see what they have in inventory, do some lot hopping around the city of Las Vegas, and see what we can find. So to start, we've got a row of Wranglers down here behind us. Let's go take a look at each one of these and see which one's the best deal. All right, so to start with, when you're looking at a used Jeep, you got to decide whether you want one that's already been modified or one that's stock. Now, doesn't mean that it's going to change the buying experience. It just changes a couple of things that you want to look at when you're looking at the Jeep. On a stock one, you're looking for typical signs of wear and abuse, scratches in the paint, oil leaks, torn interiors, those kind of things. On a modified one, there's a lot more to look at because we got to make sure the suspension is right, the underbelly's right, and there's no signs that something's about to let go. So what we're going to do for our particular case is let's get underneath both these Jeeps and let's see what they look like. All right, guys, so the reason I always start with underneath the vehicle is if it's been off-road or it's been abused, that's the spot that's always going to show it. Most dealers are going to clean up the outside of the vehicle and the inside really nice, but most of the time, they ignore the underside because who gets underneath it? So we're going to get under the white one, which has been modified. We're going to be looking for scratches, dents, dings, anything that indicates that this thing has been abused off-road. But we're going to do the same thing with the stock one, because just because it hasn't been modified doesn't mean it hasn't gone off-road. We're also looking for fluid leaks out of your differentials, your transmission, the bottom side of your motor, the stuff that the dealer does not think that you're actually going to see when you want to test drive and buy a used vehicle. All right, so first we're going to get under the white one. If you look at this footage, you can see that even though it's been modified, this one is extremely clean underneath. You have no major dents, scratches, or signs of abuse. And if you look at the motor, it is spotless. So there's no indication of either a previous oil leak or a current oil leak, which is great. So now let's get under the black one. Now, this is the stock one, and you can see that even though it hasn't been modified, this one has definitely been off-road. These scratches and these dents here indicate that they have dragged the belly over obstacles, and if you look up at the motor, it's not nearly as clean, which could be an indication that at some point this one had a leak that needed to be cleaned and taken care of. So my vote between the two would be the white one. Another thing to consider when you're looking at a used Jeep is some of them do come with soft tops versus hard tops. So there's a couple things that you want to look for in the soft top. Make sure that the seams are clean, there's no major scratches on the window, there's no tearing in the seams. This is a good indication of whether or not it's going to leak right off the bat. All right, then of course you've got the obvious. You definitely want to open the hood and see any signs of abuse up under the hood of the vehicle. Nice thing about Wranglers is you can actually open the hood on these vehicles without a salesman. Now, Now, most dealerships are going to shine them up and make them look all pretty. Why? Because your eye is attracted to shiny things. But we want to look past that. We're going to be looking at whether or not there's any signs of leaks around the valve covers, the head gaskets, the cooling system, or even the brake system. So, let's... All right, so when you're looking for a used Jeep, sometimes it's not always on a Chrysler lot. Across the street from where we were is a Cadillac lot, and we found a really cool used Jeep to go check out. Check this out. Just like the other Jeeps, you always want to start looking underneath. This one, from the looks of it, has been heavily modified. I'm not always a huge fan of buying one that's been heavily modified because you have no idea what the previous owner did with the vehicle. But we're going to look underneath this one, see what it looks like, check out the suspension, check out the bushings, check out for any leaks, and see if the $33,000 that Cadillac is asking for this 16. See on this one, there are a lot more accessories than the previous ones that we just looked at. However, the accessories are not complete. As you can see, the winch bumper is missing the winch, so whether or not the previous owner kept it, we're not sure. The lift is actually a rough country lift, which I am personally not a fan of. I don't think it's the best quality lift, and what that tells me is the previous owner did cheap out when building this particular Jeep. So like I said, try to avoid one that's already been heavily modified. Even though there's not a lot of abuse up underneath, this one is just a pavement princess. Try to find a good quality used Jeep. We found this 2015. This is a sport model JK. This one is actually in really incredible shape, and I'm going to show you that the previous owner on this actually spent some real money, which is something that you definitely want to point out. It has the Bilstein shocks, it has Smitty built front and rear bumpers, everything seals, and this one is super clean. So even though I am not an advocate for buying one that is already pre-built, the previous owner of this Jeep, when he built it right. So if you're gonna look at a used Jeep that already has some accessories from the previous owner, one of the biggest reasons why I'm an advocate for looking at the higher end accessories versus the cheap low-end products is if the previous owner is going to cheap out on certain accessories, certain driveline things, then that also could be an indication that he cheaped out on regular maintenance items, fluid exchanges, and other things that is necessary to maintain the vehicle. When you look at one like this one behind me that already has 50,000 miles on it, you want to know that it was taken care of during those 50,000 miles, that the oil was changed, the transmission was taken care of, the differentials were serviced, the coolant was serviced. If there's cheap accessories on it, there is a very good chance that the other major fluids were also not exchanged. All right, so as we continue to drive around and shop, we did find a couple of more Jeeps that is worth noting. So earlier we were talking about soft top. making sure to look for signs of abuse. As you can see, these are completely clouded, definitely showing its age. But what's even worse is right here, you can see there is a wind gap and a water gap that is pinched by the door itself. And this is definitely an area that would leak, flap, and make a ton of noise. So when I'm looking for a Jeep, if I wanted a soft top, I would be looking back here and notice that this one, another big thing to point out, and I'm sure you've heard it over and over again, is get the Carfax report. The Carfax report is independent from whatever dealer you're buying it from, and it is the straight truth. Whether that vehicle has ever been in an accident, in a flood, been rebuilt, been repossessed, been stolen, what the maintenance records are like, whether or not the previous owner did take care of it the way that they were supposed to. If you want a good insight to how that vehicle was treated, that is a great place to start. All right, guys, so remember, when you're shopping for a used Jeep, it's not a once and done thing. You're not going to go to just one dealership, pick out the one Jeep and say, that's it, that's the one that I want. It takes some time, takes some shopping. Look at all your different options that are available to you. Maybe shop different states or online, whatever the case may be. You don't want to buy something and then not go through it completely, get home and find that one problem with it that you're going to regret. Buyer's remorse is never fun. All right, so what we're ultimately looking for when you look for a used Jeep are scratches and dents in places that they don't belong. We're looking for signs of fluid leaks. We're looking for signs of abuse. And I'm a big advocate for getting underneath the vehicle, crawl through the vehicle, get under the hood of the vehicle and examine it. Even if you have no idea what it is that you're actually looking at, I promise you're going to notice if something is wrong or something stands out immediately as a sore thumb, as a sign that maybe this isn't the right one. Don't get too excited just because you found a Jeep that you want. You want to make sure that it wasn't driven like, oh, I don't know, I drive mine, or I've seen other people drive theirs, because you know that abused Jeeps are just going to give you problems as time goes on. When I go shopping for a used Jeep, I looked for all of those same things, and as sure as some of you have figured out, we actually found a really good deal on one. So they're out there. If you look hard enough, you're going to find exactly what you're looking for, and you'll be 100% satisfied with the purchase that you made, because you know that the Jeep was taken care of, it wasn't heavily abused, and it's ready to go for whatever you want to do with it. So once again, my name is Josh. This is Jeeping for Beginners. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.